Ngayon po kasama natin, Political Strategist Lito Banayo. Sir Lito, good to have you.
Good afternoon.
Welcome to the show. Naabutan niyo po yung kaguluhan doon. You know, every time we've been talking to the police, no, we were saying, were there any, do you foresee any problems? Or there any intel reports of any problems? Sabi naman nila, so far wala. Pero yung mga ganito, kahit papano, would you say that would be expected in a very highly charged situation?
Yeah, in a very highly charged situation. Plus, you must, they probably saw also footages of what happened in Nepal, in Jakarta, even in Paris, and now in Belgrade, in Serbia. No? So siguro, alam mo na, yung gaya-gaya ano rin, no? Tsaka yung talagang galit ang tao, we have to accept that. No?
Yeah. Pero yung galit na dadalin kasi sa ganyang klaseng violence, of
Well,
course.
hindi tama yon, especially yung ating Christian character, no? Parang hindi. In fact, siguro yun ang dahilan kung bakit wala ring tunay na reforma dito sa ating bansa. Eh. Because everything is done, you know, just by words, and nothing more.
But would you say, in the many years that you've seen, you know, countless rallies, would you say this is a little different? At least from what I'm seeing, my perspective is, it's not a unified rally. There are different pockets of rallies, and there are different organizers, and even some people would ask, saan ba ako pupunta doon sa mga rally?
In fact, nung linggo, the other Sunday, nung last week, yung parish priest namin doon sa ang sabi sa Luneta raw. Yung pala sa EDSA ang punta ng mga karamihan ng mga pare, no?
Yeah.
So talaga nakakaano. And that's also sad, no? The sense na imbis na magkaisa-isa, we have to accept the fact na we are a highly divided nation. So makikita mo yung iba pro-Duterte, yung iba pink lawan, so to speak, no? And yung iba basta't ano lang, dala lang nung galit, yung silakbo ng damdamin, no? Kaya sumama na lang, no?
Pero admittedly, meron din talagang ilan na taking advantage of the situation.
That always happens. That always happens. I remember nung pinatalsik si ERAP, EDSA 2, no? I was in on the thick of the negotiations between one camp and the other, no? And
GMA and ERAP.
yeah, I was in the panel that discussed the terms of with Secretary Rene de Villa, Nani Perez, and all that. No, kami ni Boying Remulla, in fact, no? We were asked by Ed Angara to sit with him in the negotiations. Pero pagdating namin sa Malacanang, this was kasi hating gabi yun eh, mga 1:30 na siguro, 1:00 ng madaling araw. Si ERAP, in fairness to him, for all his faults, talagang meron na dong grupo na nagsasabing magdadala sila ng mga tao galing sa Tondo, sa nearby slum areas in Manila para palibutan ng Malacanang, no? But he said no. No. In fairness to the former president.
The former president said he would rather leave than parang magkagulo.
Magkagulo, yeah.
Rather than have violence, no?
Yeah.
Let's talk about siguro this particular rally. Yung iba kasi nagtatanong, how did we end up here? If I were to ask you, bakit ho ba tayo nahantong dito?
Well, unang-una, we had such a worldwide acclaimed so-called People Power Revolution in 1986, no? Problema, walang drastic reforms na nangyari, no? The Trapos were able to come back via the elections of 1987 and 88, no? They recaptured, little by little, they recaptured the politics of this country. We had a constitution that was reacting to the excesses of martial law, no? Nag-imbento pa tayo ng party list system, na ginaya lang naman natin sa Europe, no? Dahil wala naman tayong kultura ng party list. In about 2 congresses, nakuha na yan, imbis na mga marginalized, nakuha na yan ng mga dynasties, ng mga trapos. And all of these are fueled by the need for more and more money to support their electoral practices. All over the country ngayon, binibili na ang boto eh. Dati-dati, doon lang sa Mindanao nangyayari yan, no? Pero ngayon, all over the country na, no? So, ayan na nangyayari. Since binibili nila ang boto, itong mga trapo, itong mga politiko, mga dynasties, ang thinking nila, wala silang utang na loob sa tao, binili naman namin ang boto nyo eh. So bawi na lang, babawiin ka agad yan. But in the process of pambabawi, the greed becomes insatiable. Yung bang, when I first entered government, this was with President Cory Aquino, a family friend who happened to be the president of a GOCC under Marcos, but he was very clean, talked to me and said, Lito, papasok ka ngayon sa gobyerno. Remember one thing, corruption is a function of wants. If you keep yourself to your needs, of wants.
W-A-N-T-S.
If you keep yourself to your needs, then you will not be corrupt. I mean, that's something that I've always borne in mind, no? So, ang problema nga, pag yung wants mo, inumpisahan mo ng hayaan, parami ng parami, palago ng palago yan eh. And so now the corruption is endemic. And like Vince Dizon always says, no, hindi na makatao itong level of corruption na nakikita natin. Eh.
Why would you say, just going back to history, that 87, bumalik ang mga trapo?
Well, unang-una nga, nag-eleksyon kagad tayo eh. There was a short period, I think less than 1 year, when President Cory came up with a revolutionary government under the so-called Freedom Constitution. Pero hindi thorough yung pagkakalinis ng bureaucracy eh. No? Because mismo yung mga kamag-anak niya na dating traditional politicians, nakuha na naman yung mga kasapi nila dating traditional politicians and they started lording it over again. No? So yan, sumama ng sumama. Lumala yung sitwasyon.
All right. So what we're seeing right now is supposed to be, siguro if I were to summarize it, one would be anti-corruption, yung tao. Ang mensahe is, ikulong yung mga corrupt. Yung pangalawa po, meron namang BBM should be held accountable. Although it seems like medyo, hindi naman malaki po, sa ngayon itong pangalawa, no? I think there are just two divisions here. In this situation, should we be focused on anti-corruption, or should it go as far as exacting accountability from the president?
Well, that would depend on circumstances. No? Initially, people will be looking at the ICI. No? Totoo ba ang gagawing investigasyon ng ICI? No? It gives us a lot of confidence that the people appointed to the ICI are men of probity and integrity. No? Wala tayong makukwestiyon kay Babe Singson, kay Benji Magalong. Well, I don't know the lady from, but she has a very good professional capability, and even Justice Andy Reyes. No? So, babantayan niya ng tao kung talagang may mapaparusahan. No? Not just the diskayas, not just the wawaws and all of this. Kailangan legislators. Kailangan ganung kataas na politiko. Oo. Pag hindi, lalaki uli yan.
So, hindi magiging satisfied ang publiko kung DPWH lang at contractors ang
No.
sampahan ng reklamo at
Despite all the admirable efforts of our friend Vince Dizon, no, hihingi ng tao pa rin na sa legislature, no, whether both houses or one house, merong tamaan. Because totoo naman kasi it's the provider of funds. No? The proponent, no? Yun ang doon nag-uumpisa eh. Kaya rin malakas ang loob ng mga DPWH officials, ng mga kontratista. Kasi tingin nila, paderang kanilang sinasandalan eh. Congressmen, senators, you know. So ganun ang problema. Hindi sila mahuhuli. Akala nila forever itong kawalang-hiyaang ginagawa nila.
And the web of corruption, would you identify them? Politician? DPWH, contractors, meron pa ba? Am I missing anyone?
I would think hindi mangyayari ito kung walang kasabwat sa DBM.
And DBM?
I would think so because nung araw, before martial law, we did not have a DBM. What we had was a budget office, later on turned into a budget commission. Ang trabaho lang noon, gumawa ng National Expenditure Program called the President's Budget and then send it to Congress. Noong martial law, dinagdagan ni Presidente Marcos ng management. Nasaan yung management of funds dito sa ginagawa ng DBM ngayon? Parang pinabayaan na lang nila. Take note of the fact na even in the NEP, na nakapasok na yung mga pork barrel eh. Kasi nung dati, ini-insert yan lagi after the NEP, nagkaroon ng PDAF problem during the time of Pinoy. So the Supreme Court came up with the decision, no, na
Bawal na yung post.
bawal na yung pork barrel. So gumawa na naman sila ng paraan. Pag sa budget call pa lang, nagsasubmit na ang DPWH ng kung ano-ano mga proyekto na bago nila gawin, kinausap na nila yung mga congressmen.
Naglalabi na yung mga
At saka yung district engineers, hindi ka naman magiging district engineer pag tinanggihan ka ng congressman eh.
I wanted to ask you about that. Kasi very important itong district engineer eh. Sino ba ang pumipili sa kanila?
Congressman. Officially, ang pumipili sa kanila, Secretary of Public Works and Highways.
Si DPWH.
Pero pag hindi tinanggap ng congressman, sinabi ng congressman, iipitin ko budget nyo, etong bata ko, ilagay mo, tiklop yung DPWH.
So it's really
the congressman.
Yeah.
Or any other powerful official. No? Baka meron di senador na nagpipilit na, I don't know.
So, why are we always forgetting, Sir Lito, that the job of the congressmen and the senators is lawmaking?
Kasi takot ang presidente sa Congress. Normally, unless you have a very strong-willed president, Congress, the executive's policies and programs are held hostage by Congress. Kaya nila eh. Dahil sila nga yung power of the purse.
Yeah.
No? Ang masakit dito sa huling yung 2025 budget, pati pala 2024, ngayon lang natin nalaman, pati yung officially, funded by ODA, Official Development Assistance, ninegotiate natin yan sa ibang gobyerno, sa ADB, sa World Bank and all, pati pala yung hinostage. No? Kinansila para lang pondohan itong mga flood control projects na ito.
Yeah, I think that
Diba?
was also brought up by Congressman Ungab. Yung po yung kanyang, medyo hindi masyadong napapansin, but when I did get to interview him, medyo battle cry niya talaga yun. Bakit
Ngayon lang natin
ginawa
na-discover
yun?
eh, di ba?
Yeah. Although medyo maingay na siya before, pero
Yeah.
medyo natatabunan because of also the 2025
Yeah.
budget, because of the supposed blank items in the 2025 budget. So I'd like to go back to what I was saying a while ago, that why are we forgetting that the job of the lawmakers is to make laws and it's not to nominate projects in their respective districts or any other district for that matter? How can we end that? Kasi, Sir Lito, sa akin, merong pork, di ba? Meron DAP. Tapos ngayon, meron namang insertion. Parang pare-pareho lang naman
Pareho
siya.
yan, all the same, no? Ganon. Ang problema kasi, I remember although I was in Taiwan at that time, but since I was very close to the executive secretary, si Secretary Medialdea, pinanindigan nila yung budget nung ang speaker, bagong speaker siya noon, si GMA, no? After she replaced Bebot Alvarez, di ba? No. Meron ding insertions, ang dami-dami siningit na insertions. Maraming nilipat-lipat na Pinagawa yan yun ng Malacanang. Quietly, of course. Hindi naman yung, quietly, pinanindigan ng Pangulong Duterte at ng Malacanang na hindi po pwede. I-veto namin yan pag ganyan. So, tiklop si Congress. That also happened, I think, during the time of President Pinoy. I don't remember the year. Pero ganun din, no? Hindi pwede yan, hindi pwede yan.
Edwin kanina.
Diba?
So, dapat talaga, very solid
Dapat
yung decision
matibay
ng
ang
executive.
desisyon ng executive. Dapat, you need a strong-willed president in a country like this. Hindi pwede mabait. Hindi talaga pwede mabait
to
dito
be
sa
fair,
bansang ito.
hindi ho ba, the president warned about the budget even before its passage?
I can only commiserate with his plight in late 2024 when he signed.
Yeah.
Kasi election ang 2025. So the former speaker must have told him, boss, kailangan natin ito, may election tayo ng May. No? Kailangan yung mga congressmen natin, kailangan mapapanalo yung ating senador. No? So probably because of that, instead of, vetoing more, like about 400 billion yung yung questionable dun eh. He only vetoed 92 billion. And later, through the prodding of Congressman Toby Chanco, who was campaign manager of Alianza, they kept or they withheld about 80 billion more. Now, yung mga for later release hindi nila ni-release, no? But yun na nga no? The executive should never be held hostage by Congress.
Let's talk about the SONA of President Bongbong Marcos. Yung pong sinabi niyang mahiya naman kayo, yun po talaga ang medyo nagpalakas din sa loob ng tao because narinig mo ang presidente na halos pagalitan lahat ng mga taong nasa harap niya at lahat ng mga nanonood na guilty. So, that emboldened, I guess, the public. To add on to that, were the 3 typhoons, together with the Habagat, that hit many parts of Metro Manila. So sabi nga niya, mahiya naman kayo. Sorry, that was around that time. Should the president also be given points or props?
Yes, definitely.
For saying that, and saying that in Congress, in front of the people who might be guilty?
Na ang una-una nagpalakpakan yung mga hipokritong congressmen na sila mismo, sila yung nag-insert. But anyway, forget that. The point is, palagay ko totoo yung galit ni Presidente, miski noon hanggang ngayon. No? Ang problema, bakit ang tagal ng aksyon? Bakit pinabayaang mag-fester itong situation? No? Bakit hindi agad-agad tinawag yung DPWH Secretary at that time, Secretary Bunuan? At anong kagaguhan nito? Anong kalokohan nito? And then he started chopping heads. No? Alam mo naman kagad kung nasa ng problema. Bulacan, Pampanga, di ba? No? Yun na nga, yun ang problema. Well, you have to give it to him. Talaga mabait yan. Siguro, conflict-averse, as we keep saying, no, si Presidente. Pero ngayon, lumaki tuloy yung problema. No? Galit na ang tao. Especially when Congress reopened and the Senate started investigating the Discayas, all of these, the Wawaws and the Sims and all that. No?
And the DPWH engineers,
Yes, so sa mga DPWH engineers.
Hindi ho ba para sa inyo, what is your feel? And as a political strategist, is it enough for now that there is a House hearing that has not had its next hearing after about 7 or 10 days? Ibig sabihin, hindi pa po siya nagpapatuloy, number 1. Sapat na ho ba na may House hearing na posibleng magpatuloy? A Senate hearing that is headed by Senator Ping Lacson that will continue, and you also have the ICI.
Okay, the Senate hearing has more credibility, much more credibility than the House hearing because it's led by Senator Ping Lacson, who, as we very well know, has not accepted pork barrel for years and years that he was a senator. Pero yung congressional hearing should immediately fold up. That TRICOM, tingnan mo yung mga yung chairman ng TRICOM, bata ni Saldico yun eh. Because his party, which used to be owned by El Rey Villafuerte, was sold to Saldico. So yung Emperor of Bicolandia, he still calls the shots. So tiklop na sila, bayaan na nila yung ICI. And I would also suggest na if the new speaker is wants to really show that he's tough and he wants reforms, ipapasa na nila kagad yung panukalang batas ni Secretary De Lima that will give more teeth to the ICI by way of contempt powers, no, and other necessary powers.
To those who might have missed that portion of our interview with former Secretary Edwin Lacerda, kahit po siya sinasabi na kailangang ipasa itong panukalang batas that gives more teeth to the ICI. Why? Because wala palang contempt powers. Ibig sabihin, tatawagin mo, hindi pupunta si Mr. Banayo, pasensyahan na, parang ganun lang. So, parang kulang
kulang sa ngipin.
Kulang sa ngipin itong ICI. All right. What about his decision, the Speaker, to cancel the travel authority of Congressman Zaldico and declare that he needs to be back upon receipt of that rejection of the travel authority to come back to the Philippines within 10 days?
Well, that is a good first step. But after 10 days, and he's not yet here, the Ethics Committee should conduct immediate hearings and declare him, expel him from Congress if he does not appear. And then the DFA should cancel his passport so that upon cancellation of his passport, he is a man with no country. And then siguro naman mapipilitan na siyang bumalik, no? Unless he is in a country like Portugal where there is no extradition treaty, or in some Eastern European state where makakapagtago siya na matagal-tagal.
That's what you're seeing, two steps rather, after the revocation of the travel authority.
Yeah.
Have the
Expel.
ethics committee.
Ginawa nila kay Arnie Teves,
Yes,
di ba?
yes.
In-expel nila.
Pero si Arnie Teves naman, may reklamo na po sa kanya, hindi ba? Parang stating the facts here. Wala pa namang reklamo. People are just clamoring. There are just people
pero
clamoring
ito,
for his return.
Congressional Act ito eh.
Yeah.
Congressional Act can do that.
Right.
They can expel.
So,
because he disobeyed an order of the Speaker.
Na bumalik dito
Oo,
sa
na bumalik.
Pilipinas
Oo.
at muling magtrabaho. Parang ganun
Yeah.
eh. Alright. Tapos, with that, gaya po ng ginawa kay Congressman Arnie Teves is expel. And then the third one was to go as far as canceling the passport.
Yeah, and then file. I mean, the ombudsman or the DOJ can file charges depending on what the ICI or even Secretary Dizon of the DPWH says, no, or decides. And then on the basis of that, they can go to Interpol. Di ba? Si Duterte nga, nandito, pinatapo nila through an Interpol red notice, di kaya rin gawin yun.
But does it end with Congressman Zaldico?
It's more a question of getting him to spill the beans on what was done. That's not easy. No, that's not easy. But it has to be done.
What about the responsibility, Sir Lito, of Congress to have had what other senators and some Congress people have espoused, a more transparent budget? Because this also happened because the budget was not transparent. Hanggang humantong na tayo dito na nagkaroon na lang ng small committee na halos pinabayaan na lang natin, hanggang nag-ingay din si Congressman Toby Tiangco na dapat walang small committee dahil wala namang minutes of the meeting, hanggang sa Kongreso na pinagpilitan ni Congressman Toby Tiangco na, 'di ba, hihingin yung minutes of the meeting, pumunta pa sila sa Secretary General, etc. I mean, dumating din po tayo dito dahil I'm not gonna say us, but Congress, both houses, allowed it to go to that direction.
Yes, definitely. Kaya nga naman, well, ngayon, sinasabi ng leadership ng both houses of Congress and even some congressmen and senators that they will make the budget process more transparent. Kasi yung budget, hindi pinapansin ng ordinaryong tao yan eh. Kasi
It is complicated, yes.
It's complicated, no? But it is the economic program of government in pesos and centavos. It is the single most important piece of legislation that Congress has to pass every year. May mga economists lang at accountants na nakakaintindi,
Yeah,
no?
it'd be very hard
So
for
it
us
has
to
to be
understand
transparent,
that. Yeah.
no? And then, bakit kung wala si Saldico, ba't hindi tinawag si Stella Kimbo? Bakit hindi tinawag si Grace Poe?
Si Congressman Libanan.
Si Congressman Libanan, hanggang ngayon, minority, di ba? I
Congressman,
mean,
yeah.
So, kitang-kita ng tao, ayaw nyo naman pala malaman ng
What do you call it?
katotohanan eh.
How would you describe that?
Which one?
Not calling former Congressman Stella Kimbo.
They just want to ensure, they just want to protect their kind.
Okay. Yeah.
No? Especially the congressional, the lower house investigators.
All right. Last question, sir. Just seeing what we're seeing right now, live pictures over there of the People Power Monument. What do you think? What can you say?
This is an important first step. This is not going to be the be-all and end-all. No? And it should not be the be-all and end-all. People must keep pounding on government to be more transparent, no? For our legislators to be more accountable. No? Ano yan eh, hindi mo naman matatanggal completely yung pork barrel. I mean, whatever name you call it. Because congressmen have their constituencies to satisfy, and even senators. No? Pero bakit kailangang sila ang magnombra ng district engineer, sila ang magnombra ng contractor pa kung minsan, no? At nakikipagsabuatan sila sa mga DPWH
O kaya,
officials.
kapamilya nila yung contractor.
Nakikita ko ngayon, nandito si former Senate President Frank Drilon.
Yeah, we have him next.
When he was in the Senate, when he was senator, binigay niya yung pondo niya sa Federation of Chinese,
Alam ko po yun, para gumawa ng mga classrooms. Hindi ko po makalimutan yun. To the tune of, di ba, Senator, 500,000 pesos noong mga panahon na yun.
Ngayon,
I do recall that.
Ngayon yata, kung ilan,
Hindi ko na
Ewan ko, 300 million.
So parang
yata.
sinasabi mo, Sir Lito, meron naman sanang magandang patutunguhan.
Precisely.
Kung maganda ang intensyon.
At hindi lang yan flood
alam ba natin
control.
maganda ang intensyon na...
Well, sana. Hindi lang yan flood control. Yung mga school buildings, gaya nga ng maganda example ni Senator Frank Drilon, no?
Okay.
Baka may ghost schools din, ha? Sa mga bundok. Baka pirmahan lang.
Yeah.
Ghost classrooms, no? And then yung mga farm-to-pocket roads, no? Ang dami-dami niyan, eh.
Farm to resort roads.
DepEd, mga textbooks, no? Mga laptops na tiklo. Si Saldi ko rin ang supplier ng laptops, di ba? Ang dami niyan, eh. It's all over government.
We need to start now.
Yeah.
All right. Political Strategist Lito Banayo. Good to have you, sir. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
We
Always
will
a pleasure, Pinky.
Thank you, sir.